Did the Buckeyes serve notice to the rest of the Big Ten or maybe all of college football? I think they might have. Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We always appreciate it. And we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Every team, every day. And brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. Well, everybody's still talking about Ohio State and what they did at Notre Dame. We will continue to talk about it as well. By the way, biggest surprise of the weekend, what happened to Minnesota? We'll get to that later. And our Big Ten Top 10. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way, you get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. All right. I think Ohio State proved that they're as good as anybody in the Big Ten, or even the country for that matter, with that last-second 17-14 win Saturday night up in South Bend against the Fighting Irish. It was a sight to behold. It really was. There is a lot to digest from this game. Let's start with quarterback Kyle McCord. Look, he battled all summer long with Devin Brown for this starting job, for the quarterback job at Ohio State, right? And, he looks unsteady at the beginning of the season. He even looked a little shaky in the opening drive of this football game on Saturday night, but he quickly settled down. Look, Ryan Day said it, I think, well, going into the half on his interview on TV. He said, look, this was McCord's first time on this stage. That was just his fourth start this season and the first time in front of a huge nationally televised audience, prime time, hostile territory at South Bend. Cut him some slack, and he did settle down. Look, he didn't throw any touchdown passes for the second game this season. We can nitpick there if you want, but he did put the ball on the money on numerous occasions. And he missed some others too, and it's going to come with the territory. But he came through big time. And by the way, if you're watching on the video, I just put up a picture of the game-winning touchdown they had at the goal line, which was amazing in and of itself. We will work our way toward all that. And a very happy Ryan Day. Very excited with what has happened now with his Buckeyes as they get to move forward. But, when the game was on the line, let's get back to it here for a minute. When the game was on the line, everything had transpired to this point. McCord, he converted on a fourth down. He converted on a 3rd and 19 with no timeouts left. And the Buckeyes punched in that winning touchdown to the picture I just showed you with 1 second to go. By the way, Notre Dame had 10 players on the field for that one. They messed up. Not to take anything away from the Buckeyes. It was a bad move by Notre Dame at that critical moment of the game. But all in all, for the Buckeyes, it was a 65-yard drive in the final 85 seconds on the road, and they get the win. Little fun fact for you Buckeye fans, maybe you already know this, because Notre Dame and Ohio State don't play every year. So the Buckeyes haven't lost to Notre Dame since 1936. So mark that one down. Media, fans, selection committee types, they're going to be discussing this game. Podcasts, Locked On Big Ten, we're going to be discussing this game all the way into December, because it is going to be critical in the discussions of strength of schedule and quality wins and all that as we move forward to decide who's going to be in the 4-team playoff. And I will argue this right now. This game was so big, first of all, it could be what keeps Notre Dame out of the playoffs, and it could be what gets Ohio State into the playoffs should they misstep against Michigan at the end of the season. That point, it's all about resume. And again, with Notre Dame, they've got Duke and Southern Cal still on their schedule, and that's it as far as ranked teams go. No conference championship to possibly play. They needed this one. I argued on this podcast last week Notre Dame needed this more than Ohio State did. But now that Ohio State did get it, it's absolute frosting on the cake for them. So it's a great win for the Buckeyes. They were very fired up. In fact, they were so fired up that apparently Ryan Day was fired up about Lou Holtz's comments pregame about how Ohio State isn't tough enough. And dating back, this program always withers, according to Lou Holtz, against big-time competition and really questioned their toughness. And that really upset Ryan Day. And he let him have it through the post-game interview afterward if you hung through all of that. Ohio State, in the end of the day here, they went toe-to-toe with a pretty good, talented, and hard-hitting, tough Notre Dame football team on their turf, under pressure, a pressure-packed ending in front of a nationally televised audience at nighttime. It was a good win, no matter how you slice it, for the Ohio State Buckeyes. And Ryan Day's Buckeyes showed that they can play and they can beat a team anywhere, any team anywhere. They can. They're that good. They're just putting it all together, getting better. A little scare there with the Marvin Harrison ankle, though. But it turns out he got back onto the field. So that was good. Your thoughts? Love you here. We have Twitter at Talk Big Ten, number 10. Also, you see down on the bottom our new website, talkbig10.com. That's with the number 10. And don't forget to hit me up with comments here on YouTube as well to discuss the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, got to take a step back and tell you, I was very excited about this Saturday with college football, as you were as well, I'm sure. And I had my setup. I had my two TVs because I didn't want to be flipping back and forth a lot. I wanted to see everything at once. I didn't want to miss anything. So on one TV, I had the Ohio State Notre Dame game, and on my other TV, I had the whiteout, Penn State and Iowa. Thought that would be a better game than it was. But that aside, the whiteout is one of the greatest atmospheres in college sports, bar none. It really is. And so I was excited to watch both. I was looking forward to two really awesome atmospheres back and forth. We did get to two great atmospheres. We only got one good game. But anyway, kudos to you Penn State fans out there. You maintained the full whiteout. Didn't look like too many people left at the end, despite the fact it was 54 degrees. It was raining all night, and your team had the game in the bag, up 31-0 in the blowout. Couple of interesting points from that football game as well that I wanted to go over. First of all, with the good, Drew Aller put together his first 4-touchdown passing game of his career. Looked really good. I was hitting receivers over the middle all night. That was there for them all day long. The bad, Iowa, come on. I mean, a week after scoring 41 points and maybe giving offensive coordinator Brian Ferentz a little bit of breathing room with all the pressure that he's got to score more points, you come out with a goose egg against that Penn State defense. Very frustrated chatter among Hawkeyes fans. I hear about it all the time with this podcast as well about Brian Ferentz. But look, Iowa has a chance to get a little bit better. They host a struggling Michigan State team. They should be able to put some points. Heaven forbid they shouldn't be shut out again, that's for sure. But I think they can rebound against Michigan State next week. What say you? Love to hear from you again at Talk Big Ten or here on YouTube with the comments. Always welcome those comments. Coming up, perhaps what I think might be the biggest surprise of the weekend in all the Big Ten. Plus, we'll cover all the other teams and the other games in the Big Ten from this weekend, in addition to the two we just started off with, Ohio State, Notre Dame, and, of course, Iowa at Penn State. Plenty more to get to as we continue right here on Locked On Big Ten. You know, LinkedIn Jobs is something I got to tell you about because, you know, coaches, they try to put the right players in the right places to keep them successful and help them win football games. Well, the same thing goes on with the office. And sometimes you got to hire new employees, and every potential hire can feel like a high stakes wager to a small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. And that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. So you post your job with LinkedIn Jobs, and you got the purple hashtag hiring frame there for your LinkedIn profile. It helps you spread the word that you're hiring. Let everybody know you're hiring. Put it out there. They have simple tools like screening questions that make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and eventually hire, because that's what the purpose of all this is. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. And here's what you need to do. If you're in this situation, you need to find somebody, you need to find somebody fast. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So we went over the two big games this past weekend in the Big Ten. There were others. We will get to them. I want to tell you what I think was the most surprising game of the entire weekend in the Big Ten. What happened to Minnesota? What happened to the Golden Gophers? This is a pretty good football team, which they're well coached. They have a really good defense. I think they have a problem at quarterback. I don't think they have a really, really good quarterback in Kaliak Manis. Maybe it's similar to Iowa. Good defense, but the offense, well, I can't even say that because Minnesota has an awesome running game. So I'll go back to my original question. What happened? What happened to Minnesota? Minnesota was up at Northwestern by 21 points at a 3-touchdown lead. And you all know the disaster that Northwestern has had with the hazing scandal. And all of a sudden, Ben Bryant just looked all world, threw for almost 400 yards. He had 4 touchdowns in this game. And they came storming back to force this thing into overtime, and Northwestern won 37-34. I'm so impressed by this. I think that this one win, which doubles their win total from last year, by the way. Coach David Braun he's the interim head coach. He may have just shown that he can coach his team. He may have just earned himself getting rid of the interim tag and being the head coach permanently moving forward. I mean, he's got one foot in the door already. I'll tell you that much. And Minnesota, I don't know, man. You're better than this. I'm not really sure. Gopher fan, would love to hear from you, and congratulations to Northwestern. Another game that was a bit of a surprise on a different end. Indiana was a 3-score favorite at home against Akron. That game went into overtime. Indiana won 29-27. But in fact, it went into 4 overtimes. Don't let me misspeak. It was a 4 overtime game. I mean, this was really a hassle for Tom Allen and the Indiana Hoosiers. In fact, Akron missed a 32-yard field goal in regulation that would have won the game for them in Bloomington. That's a head scratcher. The Hoosiers were up 17-10 in the fourth and then almost lost it. But they won. So congratulations to them. But another surprise. That was supposed to be an easy 3-score. I saw that spread was 21 points at one time. I think it was down to about 16.5. Check our friends at FanDuel. But I think that was the point spread by the time the game finally kicked off. Michigan, they beat Rutgers 31-7. This game was actually a little closer than a 31-7 game. It was 14-7 at the half. Rutgers scored first on the third play of the game. Gavin Wimsatt threw a 69-yard touchdown pass. And then, as we said, look, Rutgers is a tough team. They're strong in the trenches, and they will punch you in the mouth a little bit. But like I said last week, they picked a fight with the biggest kid on the playground, and eventually it wore them down. But they can hold their heads high for the effort they gave in the Big House over the weekend. And because it was a smash mouth game, running attack by Michigan. They got over 200 yards rushing. Jim Harbaugh, who, by the way, this was his first game back during his 3-game suspension. He said Bo Schembechler, who he played for, would be very proud of this type of game. It was that type of game. It wasn't quite 3 yards in a cloud of dust, but at times it was. Blake Corum, 97 yards, 2 touchdowns to help out the Wolverines. Wolverines hit the road for the first time all season in week 5 this weekend at Nebraska. Illinois, the Fighting Illini, they beat Florida Atlantic 23-17. And you know what? You might say, well, they've really struggled, and that was a really close score. kind of like the Toledo game, but they were actually near the goal line at the end. They just ran out the clock. In fact, they could have scored a touchdown. They slid, went down early, and just wanted to burn out the clock. But nice bounce back game from Luke Altmaier, who threw 4 interceptions against Penn State last week. He threw for a touchdown and ran for another. And Isaiah Williams caught 8 balls for 120 yards in this game. So there's some bright spots to build on here. Williams has caught passes in 29 straight games. This goes back to when he switched from quarterback to receiver back in 2021. Brett Bielema says he kind of reminds him of Antoine Randall L., shorter in stature and just a quick receiver. But hey, that's high praise, Antoine Randall L. And the defense held Florida Atlantic to 97 yards rushing on the day, so that's pretty good as well. Illinois will be at Purdue next week, where you'll remember last year Illinois led the Big Ten in defense. Their defensive coordinator was Ryan Walters. He left. He's now the head coach at Purdue. That's where Illinois plays next week, at Purdue. You know Ryan Walters is going to want to win that game. I got another note for you there regarding Purdue in just a minute when we get to them. Maryland defeats Michigan State 31-9, and Talia Tagovailoa had 3 touchdown passes. He ran for another, but the defense, Maryland's defense, forced Michigan State into 5 turnovers in this game. Their second game without Mel Tucker. Again, it's just a mess for Michigan State right now. Nebraska's getting really interesting to me. And some things are true that were true a month ago when the season started, 4 weeks ago, whatever. Quarterback's an interesting discussion point for them, but a really good defense. There are some, now they've had some injuries at running back, so they're getting a little thinner there. And you know Nebraska's a running team, but their quarterbacks do a lot of the running. In fact, Heinrich Harburg ran for 157 yards and a touchdown, had that 70-something yard run touchdown in that game. Anthony Grant ran for 135 yards and a score as well. And the Huskers have held 4 straight opponents to under 60 yards rushing. I go back to that for the first time since 1999. I go back to having a pretty good defense. They are pretty good. They host Michigan next week. But again, I mentioned this before, and if you missed it, I'm going to be real interesting because Matt Rule has been pretty loyal to Jeff Sims whenever he's supposed to come back with this ankle. Harburg is looking better and better every snap he takes. Do you make the switch, Huskers fan, back to Jeff Sims, who had 6 turnovers in the first 2 games? And Harburg's Sims is a better athlete than Harburg, but Harburg's looking pretty good. Might stay with him. That's what I would do. What would you do? Would love to hear from you. And in case you missed it, Wisconsin on Friday night beat Purdue. Final score there, 38-17. This Purdue defense is giving up too many points. Braylon Allen, 16 rushes, 116 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Tanner Mordecai added another 2 rushing touchdowns. Sad moment. We got to take a moment. Ches Malusi. He was a runner. Allen and Malusi were kind of a 1-2 punch there in the backfield. And 7 minutes ago, Malusi just tore up his knee. It was real bad. And sad for him. Sad for the kid. He's a kid from Naples. And that's too bad. It is really too bad. Hardworking kid. Braylon Allen will have to carry much more of the load moving forward at running back. Regarding Purdue in this game, Hudson Card threw 2 interceptions in this one. I've been building him up, man. The Texas transfer. I've been talking him up, but it's not there yet. And here's the other thing. Purdue has yet to win a home game. They're in the middle of a 3-game stretch at home. This game with Illinois. And remember, I just told you a moment ago, that's where Ryan Walters came from. Ryan Walters wants to beat Illinois, the team he came from. He wants this one badly. So that's what Illinois is going into when they go to Ross-Ade Stadium over the weekend. So keep that in mind. Wisconsin will be on a bye week, by the way. So that's how I look at this weekend. Again, would love to hear from you on Twitter at Talk Big Ten, YouTube. Hit me up with comments. Also, you can visit our website as well. But those are my thoughts on the weekend. And before you know it, weekend 5 is going to be here. And I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every day. Maybe some of you caught our live show about 11 o'clock Saturday night. It's taped. It's still on this channel if you want to go back and look at it. Immediate reaction on Saturday night as soon as the games were over with. We've been doing that the past 2 or 3 weekends, and people seem to like it. So we're going to keep doing it, and it gets us some new viewers as well. By the way, if you're new or if you're not, if you haven't subscribed yet, think we're just a couple away from 3,500. Maybe you, if you click it right now, click subscribe, you can be our 3,500th subscriber. Started with it like 1,200 a couple months ago. So it's growing. You guys have been a great part of it. Thank you very much. And don't forget our Friday shows that we air on this channel and all the Locked On channels. The Locked On College Football Kickoff Live show, which I'm a part of. Everybody's a part of it, but just dozens of us are a part of it. And it's a big way to kick off the weekend. That is 11 a.m. Eastern. That's a live show here on this channel as well. But again, be sure to subscribe here on YouTube, share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten. Coming up, I always do this on Mondays. I take my observations from the weekend, and I put together a Big Ten top 10, a top 10 list of my observations from the weekend. We'll see who made the list. All that coming up right here on Locked On Big Ten. Athletic Brewing Company has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. Got to tell you about this. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. They're full of flavor, well-crafted, just like full-strength beer. In fact, they sent me some. I love it. Absolutely love it. Their brews are great tasting and award-winning, and they beat out full-strength beers in global competitions. They brew over 50 styles of craft non-alcoholic beer, including IPAs, Goldens, sours, and more. They even experiment with tastes all the time. They're fit for all times, and you could drink them anytime, anywhere, and make any activity even more enjoyable. Like, I'm not kidding. You can, like watching a big game, you got to drink beer there, right? You can go to your kids' events. It's non-alcoholic, maybe even working out. I know. And there's no hangover ever. You can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic brews at a store near you or buy them online at athleticbrewing.com. First-time customers, got a deal for you. Use the code LOCKED ON and get 15% off your first online order. That's LOCKED ON at checkout for 15% off at athleticbrewing.com. Near beer exclusions and conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times. All right, so I want to get into my top 10. Here's what we do every Monday coming off of the weekend. I always like to make my observations because I watch everything. And then I compile a list of the top 10 things that impressed me the most, and I will share them with you. All right, first of all, I'm going to start off with an honorable mention before I put the list on the screen here. I want to mention Iowa linebacker Jay Higgins. I know they lost 31-0 at Penn State at the whiteout game, but his team's getting crushed. It's the whiteout. It's raining. It's cold. It's miserable. Guy still made 18 tackles in that game. I thought that was worthy of a mention. We'll put that on there as an honorable mention. So let's get to it and take a look at our list and the top 10. At number 10, I'm going to put Maryland on here and their win against Michigan State. A lot to mention here. Talia Tagovailoa threw for 3 touchdowns, ran for another in a win over Michigan State, and the defense forced 5 turnovers in that game. So I'm going to put that on there. At number 9, I want to mention Wisconsin's Ricardo Hallman. He had 2 interceptions of Hudson Card on Friday night. Good effort there. At number 8 on my observations over the weekend, top 10 observations, Wisconsin's Braylon Allen. He 16 carries, 116 yards, 2 touchdowns versus Purdue. And again, I mentioned the Ches Malusi injury. That's so sad. So Allen's going to have to carry the load moving forward. At number 7, Michigan's Mike Sainristil. He had the interception. It was a weird interception. It was a ball thrown. It was kind of caught. It was bobbled. He grabbed it out of the guy's chest and then ran for like 71 yards for a touchdown. Impressive defensive play for Michigan. Wanted to mention that at number 7. At number 6, Penn State quarterback Drew Aller. 4 touchdowns. That's a career high. Tyler Warren gets an honorable mention, a couple of touchdowns. And by the way, the defense at Penn State throws the shutout. So they get the mention at number 6. At number 5, Nebraska quarterback Heinrich Haarberg. I just told you how well he did. 72 yards on a touchdown run over Louisiana Tech. I think he's going to be their starting quarterback moving forward. At number 4, this is another mention of a guy on a losing team. I mentioned what happened to Minnesota at Northwestern. Well, one good thing. Minnesota running back Darius Taylor, who already is back-to-back freshman of the week. He might go for the three-peat here. Another ridiculous effort. 31 carries, 198 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The kid from Detroit is phenomenal. He's catching a lot of people's attention. We put him in at number 4. At number 3, I want to give some props to Northwestern quarterback Ben Bryant. 396 yards, 4 touchdowns. Bryce Kurtz, 10 catches, 215 yards, and 2 touchdowns. This is Northwestern we're talking about here. That is a stellar effort. In fact, we're going to put the Northwestern win over Minnesota and in overtime as the number 2 mention here in our Big Ten top 10 of the weekend. And at number 1, you probably guessed it. Here we go. The Ohio State win over Notre Dame. That was the biggest, most awesome story regarding the Big Ten out of the entire weekend. A lot of good national run there. Congratulations to the Buckeyes. That's our list, our Big Ten top 10 in this segment. Tomorrow we'll do Tuesday tweets. We'll have a lot of fun with it. But thank you for checking that out as well. So that's a wrap on all of that. Very excited about it. And I thought that was a pretty good list. Always looking for your comments on Twitter or YouTube on that. Maybe we left somebody out you want us to mention. In the meantime, I want to thank you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every day. Every day airs our next show. Back tomorrow. Going to look at a few more notes from this past weekend, but then we're going to quickly move forward into everything else coming up. Some more great matchups we can't wait to talk about on the Big Ten schedule. To discuss here on this podcast. Many ways for you to interact with me. Hit me up on Twitter at Talk Big Ten, YouTube, the comments, our website, talkbig10.com. That's Big Ten with the number 10. Be sure to subscribe. I mentioned maybe you're going to be the one that puts us over 3,500. We're that close if you do it right now. Subscribe and follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. And I'm going to ask you to check out our good friends at Locked On Sports Today and their podcast for the latest on everything else going on in sports. In the meantime, have yourself a great day. Thank you very much for checking us out. I can't wait till we meet again. I'm Craig Sheeman for Locked On Big Ten.